All right, guys. So we are going to be doing the Unit 2 notes today. And that's going to be we're going to start talking about traits. It's going to be the light orange box. And we're going to talk about the difference between inherited traits and learned traits. So please make sure you also open up your genetic notes. Scroll down. We're going to do the light orange box today. All right. So let's talk about traits, guys. Traits are characteristics of an organism, right? And so that's going to be, whatever you can physically see on this organism. So if you're looking at me right now, traits, right? I have a beard, I have red hair, my eyes are green or hazel, right? Those are going to be things you can physically see. I have a hitchhiker's thumb, right? My thumb curves back, all right? Traits describe the physical characteristics of an organism as well as how the organism behaves, all right? Now, traits can either be inherited, passed down from parents to offspring, or they can be learned. All right, think of that almost being like a prime example. You can think about how I have different accents sometimes, and I say y'all, right? That's going to be a learned trait, right? Inherited or innate traits are traits that are passed down from parent to offspring, right? These are going to be traits that are encoded in our DNA, right? Actually, in our genes, in our cells, in our DNA. Now, learned or acquired traits are going to be traits that are not passed down from parent to offspring. These are not in your DNA. Now, you can have some learned or acquired traits that are almost kind of passed down from your parents. It's like a tradition, right? Your parents might do something, so now you learn how to do it, right? You have that learned or acquired trait, but it's not coded in your DNA. It's not genetic, all right? That's going to be kind of the biggest difference between those two. Now, inherited traits, guys. Offsprings can inherit traits that determine what the organism looks like. That's going to be its physical appearance, right? So if you look down there in the example, you have the blue eye, right? Or you have the cow with 4 legs, or you have a ruler, something that you can measure, right? So offspring look like their parents because they inherit those physical characteristics from their parents, right? You look like your biological mom or your biological dad, right? You inherit those traits together to make you you. So you look like both of them, all right? Offspring can inherit certain behaviors as well, right? These are fixed behaviors, that are not learned. There's going to be instincts, right? If you think of instincts, now a lot of people don't think of instincts for humans. You might think of instincts for animals, right? Like maybe dogs have instincts, right? Wolves have instincts to hunt in packs, right? Take care of each other. But we do have instincts as well, right? A human instinct is to mother your young, to take care of your children, all right? So many insects actually perform courtship dances before reproducing, all right? And they're not just learned, they're actually instinctual, all right? They just know how to do them. It's encoded in their DNA that they have to perform this dance before they court, they're dating, right? Before they reproduce and have their baby insects, all right? Or sea turtles, like you see in the picture right here. Sea turtles hatch on beaches, all right? And when baby sea turtles actually hatch, they instinctively know how to waddle their way to the water, all right? And it's instinctual. They know it's in their DNA. Where they are born is actually where they come back to lay their eggs as well. All right, that's encoded in their DNA. It ends up not being something they learn. It's just they know how to get back there. Those instincts, those are going to be inherited traits. Now, learned traits, right? Learned traits are going to be behaviors that are learned by experiences, doing something. All right, they're developed by either observing something or by effort, by being taught by another organism, right? So let's look at some of the pictures down there. By reading, right? You learn how to read, you develop that skill, right? You're still developing that skill. Or you see some kids writing, or they seem to be painting like Chinese letters, right? They're learning to write or learning to ride a bike. These are all learned traits. Now, most behaviors are learned, and they're learned traits, all right? As opposed to your inherited traits, which are going to be something that you look like. You don't really change that. That just kind of is what it is. You can change your hairstyle, right? You can wear contacts that might change your eye color, but you're not going to change if you smile and have the dimples, right? I'm not going to be able to change that I have a hitchhiker's thumb, all right? But learned traits are something that you can learn, you can change, All right. So these behaviors are learned, like the ability to read, write, draw, do math, play an instrument, play a sport, cook, ride a bike, right? These are all things that you learn. So they're going to be learned traits. All right. Think of it this way. Your parents might know how to ride a bike, but just because they know how to ride a bike doesn't mean that's passed down to you, right? Just because I'm a really good cook, all right, doesn't mean my son is already going to just be a good cook. You have to learn these things. All right. Now, it's believed that a lot of aspects of a person's personality is learned, all right? Like your sense of humor, what you like, what you dislike, what are you afraid of? That's not stuff that's inherited. Maybe once upon a time, thousands of years ago, that was inherited, all right? Maybe our ancestors way long ago living in caves inherited that fear of the outside world and the fear of the nighttime, all right? But at this point, that's not something that is inherited for us. Those are all learned traits, right? You learn to be afraid of something, if that kind of makes sense, right? You don't naturally, when a baby's born, they're not naturally afraid of the dark. There's got to be some reason that makes them afraid of the dark, all right? Or you don't naturally just like something, all right? You learn to like something. And you can see this when you try different foods, right? Maybe the first time you try it, oh man, that's disgusting. The next time you try it, it's like, I'm still not a fan, but then you keep on trying it, you actually end up liking it, all right? And then your sense of humor, right? That's something that you develop, you change. As you grow, your sense of humor changes, all right? Also, learned traits are going to be like physical features, right? This doesn't mean like how I'm talking about, like with your eyes or something that's inherited, but this could be like scars, right? If you get a scar, so I have a really bad scar on my pinky that you can't really see. I know what's there, but you're not going to look at my hand and really know. But I was fishing, right? And I cast it out, and it was an awful cast. It got stuck in a bush, right? And so I'm trying to like yank it back to try to get the lure back, and I just ripped it back real hard. The lure came flying at my face, and so I kind of put my hand up instinctually, just not knowing what to do. And I hooked right through the knuckle of my pinky. And so if you don't know how to get a fish hook out, and it ain't fun, you got to pop it all the way through, and then you got to cut the tip off, and then pull it back through. And it actually ended up leaving a pretty nasty little scar on my pinky. Or injuries, if you break something, it's going to heal. If you get a scar from that, you don't inherit scars, okay? But that's how. It's just like you guys are actually in school, huh? Hear the announcements going off. You don't inherit scars, guys. Also, look at this last example. A person's muscle tone, right? Or your muscles, your strength, right? Your weight. That's all stuff that can be changed by diet and exercise, right? If you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to gain muscle, whatever. If you look at this picture, this guy is jacked, right? That's not something he inherited from his parents. That's something that he got through, dedication, hard work, lots of lifting weights. Now, some traits are not purely inherited or purely learned, and it's kind of like both. All right. These traits are the result of this complex interaction between your DNA and the environment, like where you grow up, all right, or how you're raised, and then your individual choices. All right. So not every trait is purely inherited. Not every trait is purely learned. There's a little bit of gray area in there. All right. Now, these environmental factors can affect the expression, right? If you see that trait or how you see that trait of certain traits that are inherited. So, this means things like in the environment that you can alter what, how an organism looks like or how it's coded, right? So this could be something that you have in your DNA, and based on where you live, it shows one way or another. Okay, I'm going to actually say a really good example of this is going to be the melanin in your skin, and this is going to control your skin tone. All right, how light or dark your skin is. We all have that melanin in our DNA, but based on where you are born and raised and where your ancestors have lived for years and years and years, depends on how dark your skin. If you're closer to the equator, your family, your traits Your genes are going to have that higher density of melanin. You're going to have darker skin. Whereas you go northern up, right? If you think of like the globe, think of like social studies, talking about longitude and latitude. As you go up, further away from the equator, all right, your skin starts to get lighter and lighter and lighter because it doesn't need as much melanin in it to kind of defend against the harsh sun like at the equator. So that's kind of like an example of this, right? Everyone has that gene, those traits for how much melanin you're going to have, but it kind of changes based on your family, your ancestors. Were they closer to the equator? Were they more further up north or south, further away from the equator? All right, it's not just as easy as inherited or learned. For most of our traits we're going to look at, you can kind of sort them out into those two categories. But just know there is some gray area. So sometimes you can be like, well, I could see it's both. That is okay. All right, guys, that's going to be all I have for traits. Hopefully that kind of helped talk about the main differences between acquired or inherited traits and learned traits, right? Real quick, your inherited traits, that's something that's passed down from parents to you, right? That's going to be eye color. Do you have dimples? Do you have the hitchhiker's thumb? All right, are you right-handed or left-handed? And then you're going to have some that are learned traits, like reading, writing, and riding a bike. All right, these are things that aren't passed down from your parents down to you. You have to learn them. All right, hopefully that really helped kind of clear up some things with the traits. Make sure you pause the video so that way you can get your notes. All right, none of them are underlined or bolded or anything, but all the notes are in there. I promise they're all word for word, right? So if you paused on each slide, you can copy down the notes. Guys, I hope that helps. If you have any questions, send Ms. Farber or myself a message on Schoology, and we'll gladly try to help, answer that question as best you can, all right, as best we can. All right, I hope you guys have a great day, and I hope you learned something today.